Good morning, everybody. It's time to make another video. I've taken a hiatus for the last few months, putting together some recipes, and now today is a perfect day to roast a goose. This is what we're going to do today. Goose is phenomenal. Duck, goose, pheasant, bobwhite, quail, any of the game birds I love. Turkey as well too, but right here, this is the guy that I love the most. A little harder to find, but well worth it. Today we're going to be cooking as the blizzard of 2013 is winding down. We have a couple of feet of snow. Boston hit almost 100-mile-per-hour winds last night. This is going to hit the records. When I put this into the oven, I'm going out there to assess the damage and start some shoveling. But first we're going to start on this beautiful, beautiful 12-pound goose. And it's going to be cooked with some fingerling potatoes, which I have over here. I have a combination. It's tri-colored. We have the dark blue ones. We have some small sweet potatoes and also a variety of interesting colors and flavors. We're going to cook that with goose fat, some onions, and also some mushrooms. We're also going to use some zest on the outside of this to give it an enormous flavor, and I will make a special sauce with pomegranate lime preserves. Now, keep this in mind, I always give you options. You may not find this where you're living. You can use anything. You can use apricot preserves, which is wonderful, maybe a blackberry or a boysenberry. It's a sauce that you'll put on the meat after because the intensity of the dark meat of this bird lends well to a fruit sauce. So let's start cooking. So goose comes with a ton of extra skin and fat, and what you want to do is take out your gizzards, your neck, and a little bag of the gizzards, the heart, the kidneys, things like that, and just slice out all this extra fat because we're going to render this and we're going to make the potatoes with it. Once again, you and whatever's left over, I'm going to freeze because it's gold, just like duck fat. Look at all this beautiful, gorgeous fat. There's a ton in this thing, let me tell you. So trim as much as you possibly can toward the back end over here. And we're going to make some great sauces today and another day with it. So just keep on cutting. Look at, whoo! It's truly remarkable how much fat is in this bird. When you cook it, you'll notice that too. Now I'm going to be cooking this bird at 350 degrees. It's a fairly slow temperature. It'll brown up nicely, and we're going to do about 20 minutes per pound. It's a 12-pound bird, so we're going to have it in for about 4.5 hours. So next after this, we're going to apply the zest and score the skin so that the fat can be released. And the two methods to release the fat are to prick it lightly so that you're just going below the skin surface and not piercing the meat at regular intervals, or you can score it little hash marks with a sharp knife like this, and it'll give it a pleasing appearance as well as it's cooking down. And then just go across the grain this way here. All right, I'll do the other side. And we'll cross it like that. Perfect, and let's go the opposite direction. That'll give it a really neat appearance. So the zest of 2 oranges, and put it about on top, and we're going to put some inside the body cavity as well. You just want to zest it on top and then rub it in very nicely. All right, I've got it kind of all piled up over here, and what I'm going to do is get a little of the coarse sea salt, which is beautiful, and we're going to rub that all in. Gives it a great little orange color too, and the scoring actually allows some of the zest to get right inside the skin, so it's going to capture it a little bit more. And rub it all about. The wings don't matter because we're just going to use those for another reason, namely soup later on. Okay, perfect. All right, next we will stuff the cavity with what's left of these oranges, and so what I'll do is we're just going to quarter these essentially and put them right in. Simple enough. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There we go. Push them on in. Yeah, that's going to release a great flavor and aroma when this thing is cooking, let me tell you. You've heard of duck à l'orange. This is goose à l'orange because most people actually use lemon and citrus flavors for a goose. I don't know why you wouldn't want to apply the same for a goose as a duck. You know, you use orange for a duck. It's wonderful. It tastes. They pair perfectly together. So just use it for a goose. Lemon is fine though. Like I said, depends on my mood. Sometimes I'll use lemon, sometimes I'll use lemon lime, sometimes just lime, sometimes just orange. So we are ready to go into the oven at 350 for about, like I said, 4.5 hours. We're going to render some of this fat, the excess fat that I collected on this platter, and we'll make that with the potatoes, the mushrooms, the onions, and that's going to give a glorious side dish. But that won't be until later. We got 4.5 hours to play with. In this 4.5 hours, I'm going to go outside and start to, again, assess the damage and start shoveling. You can hear the snow blowers all out there too. They're all winding down and trying to figure out what's going on as far as the 2 feet of snow, where you're going to put it, and how you're going to even get through all this stuff. It's pretty amazing. It's intense out there. So let's throw this in the oven meanwhile. I'm going to put it in this great roasting dish of my parents. This is from one of their restaurants. You can see they don't make them like this anymore. A little bit more pepper. You know I love my pepper, so you can't have enough. We'll put the cover on. We're ready to go. Let's put that in the oven. Warms up the house on a day like today too. All right, now it's time to work on the potatoes, and this is a great, easy, delicious meal because we're using, once again, the fat from the goose. So you want to take some of the fat and just cut it up into little pieces like this, and then we're going to put it in the pan on top of the stove and render the fat from that. And this is a couple of tablespoons, maybe a little bit more. Actually, this has a little bit of flesh attached, so I'll put that back. Okay, that's going to do the trick. So let's put this on the stove and heat it up so that it's going to be melting, and we're going to add some onions. I have 3 onions over here that I chopped up. No need to be too fancy with them. You can chop them fine, or you can just sliver them like I did this. I like to see them in the recipe instead of letting them disappear, so that's my method of choice. Okay, let's let this heat up before we enter that, as well as the mushrooms or champignons. All right, the fat has rendered perfectly. It's time to add the onions. Once again, there were 3 small to medium onions. Listen to that crackle. And you should smell it too. It smells glorious. Let's get our mushrooms. Mushrooms I don't want to chop fine. I don't really like doing that because I love the look of a mushroom in a recipe. So you want to be able to see them. So you can have them or you can quarter them. That's really a personal preference. It depends on the size probably. You know what, maybe we'll just keep some in half because they will go down in size. So if we do that, they won't disappear completely. Another aroma in this kitchen, just to add to the goose, these beautiful onions that are just the most amazing aroma when you mix it with the goose fat as well as the mushrooms. It's crazy. So let's add the potatoes. This is a unique recipe where I'm going to add these potatoes to the pot over here and cook them on the stove for a while until the potatoes get a little bit of tenderness to them, and then we're going to put that in the oven so they can get a little bit more oven roasted. But I'm going to mix this up well. This is about a 4-quart pot, and it just fits it barely, but it will go down in volume, so it'll fit nicely after. Okay, so let's cover this up, and we'll let that cook for about 15 minutes before we put it in the oven to roast. Another thing that we should be doing about every 30 minutes is to baste this turkey. It'll help to get more flavor. Find a nice pocket of, there we go, nice pocket of the melted fat. And you want to just baste the entire top aspect of it, as well as the wings, maybe help them to burn a little bit less. Once again, every 30 minutes, I'll put that right back in. One more thing that I want to do is, as this is cooking, add a little bit more of this rendered bacon fat on top of here. This is the most perfect way to give these potatoes an amazing flavor. So we're going to add another couple of tablespoons or so, and then we'll just mix that right on up. Woo! These are going to be glorious. We could top this with a little compote cheese after, Emmental. You know, any kind of cheese that you'd like. Okay, let's put this back on the fire over here. Almost ready to go in the oven with the bird. So I'm checking on the potatoes over here, and they're sticking a little bit, so it's time to do a little reduction. This is a nice burgundy wine, which I had to sample before I put it in there. If it was a bad batch, you know, it would just ruin the entire dish. We don't want that. So we're going to put a cup of this in there. Yep. And we're deglazing the bottom of the pan, even with all of the elements in there. We can do this very nicely and incorporate this into the sauce for the potatoes. I just did a little flambe without knowing it. Okay, let's boil that down a little bit more, and then very soon in the oven. All right, time for the goose to come out. Absolutely stunning. This has to rest at least 30 minutes. I'm going to baste it one last time as it rests so all the fat can get in and keep it moist. So meanwhile, I'm working on the sauce, which is very easy. Once again, you want it to be fruit-based, and you can do a fruit-based sauce multiple ways. One of the easiest and the most flavorful is by far to use a high-quality fruit preserve, and use one of choice. I have a pomegranate lime, which is really neat. Now, it's pretty sweet, like most of them, so what you want to do is counter it with a couple of shots of Lea and Perrins over here, which is about 3/4 of a teaspoon. And also, I'm going to use some balsamic vinegar, but this one over here is mango balsamic vinegar. And the same thing over here, I'm going to use probably about a teaspoon. And that'll fight off any of the sweetness that would be far too offensive, because you would just be putting on essentially a jam, and that doesn't bode too well with the flavors of the goose. You need the yin and the yang, so a little bit of salty, brings out the sweetness, and it really makes the flavor explode. All right, I've got this on the low back burner so it can just develop, so that when the goose is carved, you can just pour that right on top. And she's ready. Look at that glorious, absolutely stunning goose. It's beautiful. And notice I didn't trust the legs. I didn't trust them for the two reasons. This is really the old-fashioned way of doing it. Way back when trussing was really not done. Secondary, the cavity is open, all the juices come out with the citrus flavors and get into the fat, which I baste. So it's a two-step process in which I do that, or two reasons why. And the potatoes just came out of the oven. And these are absolutely stunning, glorious. They have a beautiful color from the caramelized onion as well as the burgundy wine. You could use a white wine if you wish, but I kind of like the deep colors of the burgundy wine infusing into the mushrooms and the potatoes. So we have a glorious feast tonight to celebrate the blizzard of 2013, which we had over 2 feet, and hurricane force gales. And this is going to help us to celebrate. I was outside shoveling for 3 hours, and it's going to taste mighty good with a little burgundy wine. So enjoy cooking in the kitchen with your family and friends, and make memories that will last a lifetime. Bon appetit.